Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Dankster Intel Show. It is your boy, Danks, the one, the only American Dankster. Don't you ever forget it. America first, America only, whatever you want to call it. That is me. And we're about to talk about, well, before I say a single word, I want to explain and have you understand one thing, because what I'm about to show you is not theory. It's not a hot take. It's none of that. It's not a conspiracy theory. It is it is a pattern, right? It is a pattern that we are constantly seeing, and it's a pattern that has destroyed every major civilization that ignored it. And it is happening to the United States right now, tonight, today, wherever you're at in the world, while you're sitting there watching this stream. Now, in 1600, a group of English merchants walked into the court of the Mughal emperor, like the imperial Mughal, and they had trade agreements and they had pretty good manners. All right. That was the British East India Company. You may have heard of it. 157 years ago. Years later, they owned Bengal. 200 years later, they wrote the laws, they collected the taxes, and commanded the largest private army on earth in a country that had no right to govern. They did it without a declaration of war. They did it through access. Then they did it through money, then institutional capture, then policy control. They did it slowly enough that no single generation could see the whole picture all at once. I'm going to go through a lot of that picture today. And when I'm done, I want you to tell me at what stage you think America currently is at. Because we've gone through federal filings, the congressional records, FARA documents, declassified DOJ documents, and then we've had on-camera admissions from me, and we've seen others showing the same. And every single one of them points to the same answer. So welcome to the Dankster Debrief. Thank you for YouTube allowing me to speak again after being ripped off the air last weekend. So what's up, Danksters and Dankettes? Welcome back. If this is your first time here, welcome. Hit subscribe, hit the notification, set it to all. Let me know in the comments on the next few uploads or live streams if you are not getting my notifications, because this content is getting throttled beyond belief. We were in the past getting thousands of live viewers, and now I'm struggling to pull together 100, as you can see right now. So also, please join the Discord, patreon.com/original Dankster. I'll put the scrolling ticker up here so you guys know where to go. And you can also join members only live streams every Friday, and we discuss and go deep. We've actually broken news on that live stream where just was the members. We've done some incredible content where the members were screaming at the top of their lungs, "You've got to go live with this to the public," and we've done that as well. So make sure that you are a part of the community. Thank you to InfoWars for having me on. Thank you to the War Room and Harrison Smith. I hope that I was able to get my information across in a way that was completely easy to understand, as I always strive to do. And yeah, had a great experience there. Now, what I want to be clear about today is, and what I want to tell you about is what it is and what it is not, what this show is going to be about, okay? First of all, this is not a stream about hating any group of people. This is, I'm an Iranian American, okay? I'm American with Iranian heritage. My family has lived and is currently living through something because I have family in Iran. But my family has lived through what happens when foreign power does not, when foreign powers decide that your country is a strategic asset and your population is an acceptable cost. I am not anti anyone. I'm not anti lies. The receipts I'm going to show you today do not have a religion. They do not have a political party. They have filing numbers and they have dollar amounts and they have date stamps. That is the standard that I run on this channel. Receipts or it does not count. Facts over narratives. All right. Receipts over feelings. Facts over feelings. I mean, that's how I roll. And for anybody to assume anything else is sadly mistaken. So please share this out. It will really help me, especially coming after a ban from live streaming for 4 days. What's today? Yeah, 4 days and being ripped off air. It would really mean a lot. You can text it to somebody. When you're sharing it, it helps. That's all I can say. When you like, when you subscribe, when you notify, when you comment, when you chat. I want this chat looking like a money printer. All right. All right. So I'm going to give you the framework that you're going to carry for the rest of your life, because once you see this pattern that I've put together and I've been seeing, it's and I need you to see it clearly because you are actually living inside of it right now. All right. Historians studying the falls of empires keep finding the same sequence, not the same characters, not the same century, but the same sequence every time, 5 stages, and every time a nation reaches a stage, which would be stage 4, the people living through it thought their institutions were actually still functioning. They thought that their government still served them, or maybe were hanging on to a thread that this is still not institutional capture. It's just art. But we've been waking up. This is what's happening. And every time in the past, they were wrong when they believed their government. They were actually wrong. Like there's been many empires that have fallen. And through that fall, it's really hard to see at the time. So, stage 1 is the access through foreign power. They gain a foothold. It looks a lot like diplomacy or political activism. It looks like investments, like trade, or like a cultural exchange of some sort. Nobody sounds an alarm because nothing alarming has yet happened. It is just access. The door is open. And then you proceed to stage 2, which happens to be financial leverage. And the access gets converted into dependency, really. The foreign power controls something the host nation needs. All right. It could be capital, it could be trade routes, it could be military technology, or in the modern version of it, the ability to fund or destroy the political careers of the people who run the country. And I will get to the super chats and any memberships and stuff after I go through the debrief. It might take me 30, 45 minutes to go through what I want to talk about. So sit in, buckle up. This is going to be a good one. And everybody needs to hear this story. That's why I'm asking you to share this out. I don't just do this for my own vanity. That's not the purpose here. So stage 3 is actually institutional capture. This is really the pivotal moment. The foreign power stops lobbying from the outside and starts operating from the inside. And this is something that we've been talking about on all of my accounts here and on X, specifically the media, the think tanks, the churches, the political parties, the regulatory agencies. The foreign interest is no longer knocking on the door. It is actually sitting at the table. Okay. And then stage 4 is policy alignment. That is the stage where the host nation's official government, their policy begins serving the interests of the foreign power instead of its own citizens. Not because they lost a war or because they were conquered, but because the people making the decisions have actually been captured. It could be through money, it could be through access, but surely the capture has ensued. And this might be through the threat of being destroyed professionally or politically if they step out of line. Hence, the Epstein files or various other things that could be happening behind the scenes. And then stage five is the collapse. It's actually a violent correction. Okay. Now, we're going to go through historical cases, but I need you to understand something before I do this. I am not showing you history for the sake of history. I am showing you history because every single case that I'm going to describe today has a direct parallel to something documented somewhere in our federal filings. It is a congressional record that could have it. It is a primary source document about what is happening in the United States. Every historical beat today connects to an American receipt. Okay. So pay attention to when I make the connections because it really is the whole point of this. Now, um, I want to know if you are in the United States, put it in the chat. If you are somewhere else, put in the chat. If you want to, if you're comfortable putting your state or your city, I want to know where you're at in the world so I have an idea of who I'm talking to. So let me know where you're at, what country, what state, what city. That way I can get a gauge for where we are. And if you see where this is already going, drop stage four or one, two, three, or four. Stage four is institutional capture. If you believe we are there, put stage four in the chat and put your state, country, and wherever you're comfortable putting at. So the Ottoman Empire was one of the most powerful, and you've heard of Ottoman Empire, I'm sure. They fortunately that we were allowed to be taught something, a little bit of something, right? So the Ottoman Empire, again, was one of the most powerful political entities on earth for 400 years, all right, 4 centuries. It controlled the trade routes between Europe and Asia, and it had one of the most sophisticated administrative systems in the world. And then it needed money. So in 1854, the Ottoman government took its foreign loan and they took the loan from British and French banks, and they needed capital for the Crimean War. The terms seemed manageable. Then they borrowed again 4 years later in 1858. And then they borrowed again in 1860, another 2 years, 2 years again in 1862, and then 1863 a year later, and then 2 years later, 1865. And every single year from 1869 to 1874, they were borrowing loans. By 1875, their nominal debt was back in the 1800s was 200 million British pounds. Their entire annual government income was only 21 million a year, and a 10-to-1 debt to income ratio. They could not pay it. It was irreversible. They could not pay it and they defaulted. And I'll show you what that looks like. A little bit of history here for you. So here is the Ottoman Empire. And you can see here, this is Ottoman Public Debt Administration, was a European controlled organization that was established in 1881 to collect the payments which the Ottoman Empire owed to European companies in the Ottoman public debt. The OPDA became a vast, essentially independent bureaucracy within the Ottoman bureaucracy run by the creditors. Its governing council included one representative from each British, French, German, Austrian, Italian, Dutch, and Ottoman creditors, and one representative from the Ottoman state. It employed 5,000 officials who collected taxes that were then turned over to the European creditors, and had peaked at 9,000 employees, more than the empire's finance ministry. And the dissolution of the Ottoman Empire happened around that 1918 period. So again, we are here bringing receipts, and I'm showing you something that is urgent at the least to be kind. So this is where the history lesson becomes the stream, okay? The live stream of today. When the Ottomans defaulted, the Europeans debt, the creditors themselves did not forgive the debt. They did not walk away. They created the Ottoman Public Debt Administration. I'll just leave it up here as I talk a little bit. So this was they created the Ottoman Public Debt Administration in 1881. They basically control a foreign controlled governing body that was handled um, the legal authority. They were handed the legal authority to collect specific Ottoman tax revenue, salt taxes, tobacco taxes, a monopoly on the tobacco industry, customs duties on imports and exports, silk ties, fishing taxes. All of it went directly to foreign creditors. And basically, before 1 lira reached the Ottoman treasury from the benefit of the Ottoman people, debt collectors were taking this debt, this money. So the Ottomans, they still had a sultan or somewhat of a king. They still had a flag. They still called themselves an empire, but their tax collection mechanism was run by a foreign board whose legal mandate was to extract money from foreign bondholders in London and Paris. Now, I want you to hear what I just said, and then I want you to think about something in particular. In 2024's election cycle, AIPAC, an organization that was ordered to register as a foreign agent under FARA by RFK in 1962, but refused. They spent $126.9 million on 389 congressional races, not 39, not 200, 389. According to the FEC data, by the Intercept and by the Sludge, 318 of these candidates um, were backed and won their races just from this particular. You may have seen this, right? This right here. How does AIPAC shape Washington? We tracked every dollar. Okay. And this right here explains the whole big picture of how AIPAC bought out the politicians. Out of so AIPAC was involved in 389 races, including 26 Senate races and 363 House races. And you can see so they won all of these, right? Non-AIPAC races was this small group here. The AIPAC races that won were here. Lost were just these three. And then to be determined were those four. And then did not run for re-election or resigned were these gray ones here. All right. In 88 races, AIPAC-backed candidates faced no opponent. The size of AIPAC's war chest means it can pick and choose the races in which it is most likely to succeed, boosting its image as a kingmaker and its influence among candidates and members, while simultaneously hiking up the cost of criticizing U.S. policy towards Israel. All right. So again, according to the FEC data, this is public government data. That was, and then you can look at Sludge here. Sludge actually, here is all the money AIPAC spent on the 2024 elections. It's a 6-minute read. After this live, maybe I'll put some of these links down below. But I wanted to show you that so you can understand what this means. The Ottoman Public Debt Administration was a foreign-controlled board that determined how Turkish tax, the revenue was collected. AIPAC spent $127 million essentially to determine who sits in the legislative body that allocates American tax revenue, American military aid, American foreign policy. This mechanism is different. The function, though, is identical. Don't be mistaken. In both cases, a foreign interest captured the body that controls the nation's resources, okay, and the decision there behind it. And when two American members of Congress, Jamal Bowman, Cory Bush, voted against unconditional military funding for Israel's war in Gaza, AIPAC did not lobby them. AIPAC spent $29 million removing them. It set a record for outside spending on a House Democratic primary in American history. It set the record, okay? So when you think about setting a record on an American policy or American, political race, this is where we fall in line with stages 3 and 4. You do not argue with the people who resist. You actually just spend money to replace them. You could look at Open Secrets here. Open Secrets right here basically shows the Public Affairs Committee contributions 51,848,000, and it shows all of their outside spending and lobbying. Standing Strong, there's all these PACs here. Standing Strong PAC, People, Wesley Bell, George Latimer, and you can see really, the contributions just in 2024 alone, right? So individuals, organizations, candidates, and so on and so forth. The average contributions to members of Congress from 1990 to 2024. If you look, there was hardly anything all the way up until about maybe 2018, and then you start getting all of this here, right? So since 2018, right before COVID, you get a buyout of the Dems and the Republicans. They're one and the same, just different sides, they say. You got the Senate, okay. This is the lobbying here. This shows. I mean, this is outside spending on an American political campaign. Think about that. So the Ottoman Empire was formerly dissolved in 1923. All right. From the first foreign loan in 1854 to the dissolution was just 69 years. All right. The American Zionist Council, AIPAC's direct predecessor, began formal lobbying operations in this country in 1951. That was 75 years ago. Remember, Ottoman Empire got started with their loans and all that in 1854 with their first foreign loan. They dissolved and were taken over 69 years later. We've been at this now for 75 years, and we are not in 1875 yet, but we are past 1854, and the clock is ticking. Now, I want you to hold on to one number as we go through this section. The East India Company was incorporated in 1600 as a trading company. By 1803, it had a private army of over 250,000 soldiers, and that is twice the size of the British Army. All right. A private corporation had a larger army than the government that chartered it. Just think about that. A private army of over 250,000 people, twice the size of a country's army. Think about that. Let me show you this. This is how the East India Company became the world's most powerful monopoly. One of the biggest, most dominant corporations in history, operated long before the emergence of tech giants like Apple or Google. All right. The massive British corporation was founded under Queen Elizabeth I and Queen Elizabeth I, and rose to exploit overseas trade and become a dominating global player. The entry vector was just a piece of paper, a royal charter granting trade access. From that charter, a private entity with shareholders' interests in London went on to write these laws, collect the taxes, command the armies, and govern 200 million people on a different continent in the 1600s. And the Mughal emperor, who originally welcomed them to trade spices, think about like the innocence that it seemed at the time. In 1615, they went to trade spices with them, and they would have never have believed you if you would have told them that this is where their charter would lead. The process was not violent in the beginning. It was just a financial transaction, something that one person benefited or one country benefited from another. All right. The company then cultivated relationships with local governors. I'm explaining to you how this process works every time. All right. So you can understand where we are in America today. This is one of the most important podcasts I'm going to be doing as of setting the tone for the next few weeks or however long it needs to go. Again, the process was not violent in the very beginning, it was just financial. The company basically cultivated relationships with their governors, with politicians. It funded political rivals against rulers who resisted. When the Mughal Empire began fragmenting internally, the company did not invade. It backed factions of them. Okay, the Battle of Plassey in 1757 was not a conquest. It was the company paying one Mughal governor to betray another. So they owned the outcome before the battle even started. That is a stage 3 mechanism, the mechanics of stage 3. You are inside the decision making structure before anyone realizes that you're actually even there. Now, I want you to think about the United States and I want you to think carefully, okay? Who funds the trips? According to the American Israel Education Foundation, the nonprofit arm of AIPAC. Oh no, am I having issues again? Tell me I'm not having issues. It just told me I'm having issues. Hold on one second. Oh no. Okay, I think we're good, right? Am I still live, you guys? Let me know in the chat. Are we still live on YouTube? Let me know, let me know, let me know. Okay, we're good. Yeah, that was weird. Check this out. Here, I'll share this part of the screen with you. Well, I guess it doesn't matter. It just said YouTube is currently experiencing issues that might prevent you from going live. Just like, oh God. Okay, anyways, let's keep it moving. All right, as long as we're good, we're good. All right. Again, I want you to think about who's funding these trips. I told you. The American Israel Education Foundation, the nonprofit arm of AIPAC. Congressional trips to Israel are the number one destinations for privately sponsored foreign travel to Israel. And they're the number one, basically, the number one foreign traveled trips by members of the US House and their aides. Okay. So it's the number one destination, not the UK, not Canada, not Germany, Israel, paid for by AIPAC's nonprofit arm. Okay. AIPAC's nonprofit arm pays for these trips. The East India Company cultivated relationships with the Mughal governors through gifts and access. AIPAC cultivates relationships with American members of Congress through campaign funding and private trips to a foreign country whose government has a documented financial interest in the policy decisions those Congress members make. I am not saying the outcome is identical, but I am saying the mechanism is the same. Access becomes relationship, relationship becomes obligation, obligation becomes policy. Now, here's the piece of history that almost nobody knows, and I need you to hear it in full. In 1951, the American Zionist Council was doing public affairs and lobbying work in Washington. By the early 1960s, Senator J. William Fulbright, the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, had documented something quite alarming at that time. Israel had funneled $5 million, which is more than $35 million in today's money, through a quasi-government Jewish agency's New York office into American lobbying and propaganda operations. The money was flowing from a foreign government into American political influence work without any disclosure. That is a textbook FARA violation. And my, have I seen many of those. Let me pull up this right here. I think this is the one. Yeah, here we go. Take a look at this. So this is the AIPAC election roll questions, raises questions of foreign agent registration. This was in 2020, I think. 2022 was marked. So for the first time, the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, AIPAC, formed two political action committees, PACs, which have set records in their contributions to candidates in primary election campaigns this year. Now, on November 21st, in 1962, Robert Kennedy's Department of Justice sent a formal written order to this AIPAC arm or council demanding they register as foreign agents. The letter explicitly stated that the receipts of funds from the Jewish Agency for Israel constituted the council an agent of a foreign principal. That is not disputed. This is DOJ case filing that were declassified in 2008 through a FOIA request. Right here, this is the actual page. I'll make it a little larger. And you can see, maybe if I do this to it, it'll make it easier to see for you guys. There we go. I think that's a little better. So the DOJ orders the AZC to register as a foreign agent. Attached here too is the entire file relating to the American Zionist Council and our efforts to obtain its registration under the terms of FARA. The documents in the early 60s, Israel funneled 5 million, more than 35 million in today's dollars, into U.S. propaganda and lobbying operations. Okay. J.F. Kennedy, Robert F. Kennedy, Attorney General. All right. These are public filings. I'm not here making guesses. Okay. So what happened is the AZC actually resisted. They stalled. They asked for delays. They argued that registration would harm the Zionist movement. And then on November 22nd, 1963, President Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas, Texas. Robert Kennedy's political cover for the FARA enforcement was gone. He left the DOJ to run for Senate. In 1965, the DOJ allowed the AZC to file a redacted, non-standardized FARA declaration in secret. The AZC then shut down. Its lobbying functions transferred entirely to AIPAC, which was incorporated in 1963 and which has never registered as a foreign agent to this day. All right. If we go and we look, AIPAC is not filed. Okay. I've already built this on my website. They are not a filed foreign agency as they should be. And you can see from this, the owner of WhatsApp, the CEO, has given more money. So if you're using WhatsApp, I'd be careful. Just saying, not in a malicious way, but in a way that you're helping fund your own demise. Like you're helping fund a foreign government. That's it. And then they're using that money to give to our politicians. You need to know that. All right. The Kennedy administration tried to enforce this law. They tried. It's just crazy, bro. But yeah, this was what it was here. So Robert Kennedy tried to make the American Zionist Council's AIPAC register as a foreign agent. And then, the assassination happened. Now, I'm not telling you who pulled the trigger or why, but the law enforcement effort ended with an assassination, right? I'm telling you, though, that the documented sequence and asking you to sit with it is because 62 years after RFK's DOJ had sent that letter, AIPAC is spending hundreds of millions of dollars. Now they've got $700+ million Hasbro budget for the 8th Front War. And they're spending millions and hundreds of millions of dollars per election cycle on American congressional races. And the organization they were told to register as a foreign agent has instead become the single largest outside spender in congressional elections in the history of this country. Okay. I want to put a poll in the chat real quick. Let's put this poll. Let me set this poll up right here. Where do I do this at? Here we go. I'm going to set a poll in the chat. I want to get your vote on this and see what you think. And I have this poll right here. Legal complexity. All right. Legal complexity, add option. All right. Political power. So I want to find out what you all think um, between these two right here. Okay. Start poll. Now, the question is vote in the poll on YouTube. The 1962 FARA enforcement attempt against AIPAC's predecessor. Why did it fail? Okay. I should have let me fix it. Hold on, let me fix it. Why did it fail? That was important to put in there. I forgot to put it here. Why did it fail? Sorry about that. And then we'll put these two here. Legal complexity, political power. There we go. Okay. FARA has been hard to enforce. That's the legal complexity. Political power is the lobby was standing to entrenched. Oh shit! I messed up this poll. There's assassination. You could type in assassination, remove the only person standing through to see it, or all three. Whatever. I fucked this poll up so bad. Excuse my language. I want to start it again, but whatever. I'm wasting time. I want you to stop thinking about the Ottomans and the Mughal Empire now for a minute. I want you to think about your country. If you're in the United States, I want you to think about, or if you're somewhere else, right now, tonight, because what I'm going to show you is not history. It's more federal filing numbers and stuff. And you've seen this before. I'm just going to show you the website, really, the FARA website. This is where I get a lot of my information. Okay. I'm not going to go through any filings or anything. We've gone through a lot of that, but everything I'm going to tell you really is filed under FARA. Now, in 2025 and 2026 alone, the Israeli government approved $729 million through what's called a Hasbara budget. That is the Hebrew word that means public diplomacy, but functionally means propaganda. $729 million confirmed in the Israeli government budget documents. Let's go to my website, americansfortransparency.org, and scroll down. And this is just a small, brief 1/8 of what that money is doing. Okay, this is a pipeline of 100 something million dollars. Okay, $159 million. And you can see here, if we kind of zoom in, this is what I was showing and explaining to Harrison Smith on the live stream podcast or news yesterday, is how this pipeline really works. And you've got all of this money coming from the Israel Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Okay. Then it goes through these three intermediaries, and then it comes out to all of these branches here. All right. So feel free to go to the website. I'll put it's americansfortransparency.org. Let me put it up here. Here you go. And you can check that out whenever you have some free time. Now, understand that this is a confirmed budget from the Israeli government's budget documents, Times of Israel, the Jerusalem Post. Again, this is not about Jewish or Judaism. It has nothing to do with religion whatsoever. This is confirmed Israeli government documentation specifically allocated for social media campaigns, targeting American audiences, partnerships with American NGOs, trips to Israel for American elected officials and influencers, American college campuses targeted, and the geofencing of American churches. I actually, on this site, something really cool that I put in the other day, go to the homepage and we scroll up a little bit. You can actually see where you targeted. There's a tab there, or you could see, was your church targeted? You could click this. And if you wanted to explain to somebody like a pastor or a family member or a friend that maybe thought you were crazy, you could actually send them to this page. If you just go to the homepage, americansfortransparency.org, and you click where you targeted, this actually explains everything on how it works. It shows all the FARA documents. You can actually just share it on X. You could click share, and every page has something that will explain to your audience if you wanted to share it, right? So this right here, though, the most important part I would say is that you can check and see for FARA government filings, what churches have been listed, and there's over 500. And I put all of the churches on my website. So it says the city, the state, and then there's a drop down here where you can actually engage with the, I don't think you can see it on your end, but you could drop down. It shows Arizona, California, Colorado, so on. And then the churches. So Calvary Chapel of Prescott. I mean, Calvary Phoenix, Calvary Tucson. I mean, you name it. Say I wanted to search California, I could click that, and it tells us which Calvary chapels and which whatever. I mean, if we scroll through here and we look at the geofencing targeted, look at how I did the math on all of this, all of the file churches. If you add like the congregation size, which right here it shows you the congregation size, each church, this is 6,200, 15,000. It's actually 2.3 million people being targeted every single Sunday, just from the FARA filings, not counting the ones that we don't know, all right, or that aren't filed. Yeah, pretty brutal, right? So this is part of that Hasbara budget, all right? Again, $729 million allocated by a foreign government, all right, allocated by a foreign government to target American churches, American citizens, American Christians, conservative Americans, with messaging designed to align American public opinion with the foreign government's interests. Benjamin Netanyahu said it himself in in New York in 2025. His own words were that we have to fight with the weapons that apply to the battlefields in which we engage today. Let me see if I can. That's a really good piece, actually. Let me go to YouTube. Because we all need to hear exactly out of the horse's mouth. Let's see if I can find it. Let me see. And I'm sure you've heard it before. Here we go. Here's a short we can watch on it.
The weapons change over time. You can't fight today with swords. That doesn't work very well. But we have to fight with the weapons that apply to the battlefields in which we're engaged. And the most important ones are on social media. And the most important purchase that is going on right now is TikTok.
So when they take American Christians or American influencers or pastors over, the reason why he's saying class is because this is what they're doing. They're actually programming American pastors into this.
Number one. And I hope it goes through because it can be consequential.
And it went through. It went through. Right? So we all know this, okay? It went through. We've seen it happen. Now, Benjamin Netanyahu said it himself. Like I said, this is a war, a battlefield. When they use language like this, we need to be on our P's and Q's, okay? War and battle, this is scary, okay? This is not a conspiracy theory. That is the prime minister of a foreign government explaining to an audience, primarily American, that American social media is a battlefield and that American citizens are the target. And the weapon is a $729 million foreign government budget, money flowing into content, influencer programs, AI model manipulation, and church targeting operations on American soil. This should infuriate you. Now, I'll talk about the documented pipeline that brought me onto InfoWars, the War Room, which is a perfect name for exactly what's going on. And if you didn't know, that's where I was at yesterday. I'll show you a brief clip of, I don't know, I guess, of something here where he talks about
ourselves in this situation with my guest, Anthony Kevin, better known as Danks from Dankster Intel. Anthony Kevin, better known as Danks, from @Dankster Intel, is a full-stack AI developer pushing the bleeding edge of technology while moonlighting as one of the sharpest independent researchers out there. He's the founder behind Americans for Transparency and the mind behind Dankster Intelligence Apparatus, where he drops deep investigative dives into nonprofit funding, media influence, and the inner workings of major conservative organizations. If you want unfiltered receipts and data-driven analysis that cuts through the noise, you're in for a treat if you visit americansfortransparency.org. That's americansfortransparency.org. Find Dankster on X @Dankster Intel and on YouTube, Instagram, and Rumble. Secondary Clips channel can be found on YouTube @Danks Clips. Danks, welcome to the show, sir.
Harrison, thanks for having me. It's a privilege to be here. Big fan of the show, and lots to talk about, man. This is, in my mind, is breaking news. This is very important information, even though it's been on the internet. It's just been sitting there waiting for someone to come out and really dive all the way in. And fortunately, I did that.
So what have you discovered? What do people need to know about their favorite conservative influencers?
Well, there's a company called Clock Tower X LLC. It's registered as a foreign agent for the government of Israel. So essentially, in the FARA document, it states that they are to integrate messaging directly into Salem Media and also aligned properties. And what's interesting about that, and what I want people to understand, is it's not just about Brad Parscale. He is the principal of this. He basically owns it. And he has multiple other websites. They do AI manipulation and bias on behalf of their business. And they also do geofencing on American churches. But that's really the surface. What's underneath is a systems level argument about how foreign government really doesn't need to buy politicians anymore. They don't need to bribe anybody. They don't need to back channel diplomacy. What they figured out is far more elegant, and really it's dangerous for our country. They buy the architecture. Think about Salem Media and what it actually is. It's not just a radio network. Salem is the ideological distribution infrastructure of really conservative and Christian conservative Americans, the right American, political right, whatever you want to say. It reaches tens of millions of people every single week across radio, podcasts, digital properties, television, ads. And so when Salem speaks, it speaks to the audience that elects presidents, especially our president today. So it shapes what the audience believes is true, what is moral, and what is worth fighting for. But the problem is it's coming from Israel, and it's actually infiltrated on the inside through the documentation as a foreign registered agent. The thing is, Salem Media itself is not registered, and the chief strategy officer is Brad Parscale, working hand in hand with the future of Salem Media and their architecture and the work that is being put out. Look at your boy over there, just slaying in the back on the I never thought I'd be on the news like this. Through Salem Media and aligned, remember, it's not just Salem Media, it's aligned properties. So where does that stop? Not just that, Don Trump Jr. and Lara Trump own significant stake inside of Salem Media. Not just that, Salem Media owns 30% of MXM, Don Jr.'s business, his app. So they're business married. So the White House's family is business married with a company that's doing the largest conservative media apparatus in this country, and they're doing the bidding of Israel.
So I want to get into this is all bombshell stuff, and I want.
So that kind of explains, and you can go check it out on InfoWars, the War Room. But Brad Parscale was Donald Trump's 2020 campaign manager. He knows American political targeting better than almost anyone alive today, and he knows the voter data, the media environment, the social graph, and as of 2025, he is a FARA registration of Clock Tower X LLC, numbered 7649, and registered foreign agent for the government of Israel, working through the Havas Media Group of Germany intermediary at a contract of $1.5 million every month. That is an $18 million a year contract. However, it's set for 6 months at nine. I think they've got a $9 million contract right now. paid by a foreign government to Trump's former campaign manager, whose stated mission in the federal filing is AI-driven pro-Israel messaging. And I'll show you this image that I put together that I posted on X yesterday. If you look here, this is really the crux of it. It's page 22 of their federal filing. Clock Tower draft. This was filed August 27th of 2025. Content production and distribution, production and delivery of minimum of 100 root creative assets per month. Why does someone always call me while I'm live? Mr. Let Go. Someone let him know. Creation of 5,000 monthly variants. At least 80% of content is, all of it is here. And if you want to check it out on X, I posted it right here. And I'll put the link in the chat so you guys can check it out. And I explain a lot through this, right? It's right here. Here's the post. I'll share it with y'all if you want to check it out. All right. So let's continue. Again, their stated mission is, through the federal filing, is AI-driven, pro-Israel messaging targeted through Generation Z on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and all kinds of American podcasts. They have, I can show you the federal filing. Well, I showed you some right now, so that's plenty. But actually, if we go through here, they have a ton of filings. Let me pull up my site again. They have a ton of filings. So if you go to Clock Tower, they're all working together, right? They're all doing, the money's coming from one place and they're all getting it. But these are all of the documentations. Each one of these are FARA filed documents, all right, that I extracted and I put on the website. I'm scrolling down. Look at how many there are, okay? We got all of this informational materials, supplements, statement, registration statement, exhibits, contracts, short forms. These are people that they're working with, certain particular people. It's all here. You could share this on X if you go to the site. I really encourage people to share this on X. Every time you go to the site, please scroll to the bottom and go and share the information. All right. This is very important. It's so important. Now, the specific component in the filing is called GPT framing. And this means that they're creating content and websites specifically designed to influence how ChatGPT, Gemini, and Grok respond when users, American users in particular, actually ask questions about Israel and Gaza. So they're embedding foreign government narratives into the AI models that millions of Americans use every day to understand the world around them. The foreign government is not just targeting your social media feed. It is targeting the tool you use to research your social media feed itself. All right. So when you find something on social media and you want to learn about it, you go and you search on ChatGPT or any AI source. They are able to manipulate that. The content is basically, there's a website. If we go to Justorium, it's a great example. And I'll show you this website. So this is one of Brad Parscale's websites from Clock Tower X LLC. And if you go to news and analysis, they actually phrase these as like questions, right? So this could be a question asked by AI, why the necessity to confront a malevolent Iranian regime is a war for all. And then they actually have pages that explain perfectly for an AI to pull sourcing out of. And then they have all of these footnotes with information, right? And so the AI will actually pull data from all of these fake news articles, if you will, to essentially be an authority on this topic. Iran's use of child recruits, violent regime, whatever. And so this information, AI will pull from these websites. All right. So it shapes the perception around the most dominant information on the internet. And they have tons and tons of websites. I probably should put them on the website Americans for Transparency, but just to give you an example, and if you look, I mean, it doesn't end. They've got tons of these. Okay, so that's how they target the AI system. So this is not a foreign government buying ad space. This is them embedding its messaging directly into media infrastructure that has financial ties to the family sitting president of the United States. All right. This content is targeted at right wing Christian viewers, listeners, broadcasters, radio, television, digital, tens of millions of conservative American listeners and viewers. Donald Trump Jr., Lara Trump hold equity stake in Salem through the MXM news deal. The president's son and daughter-in-law have financial interests in a media network whose content pipeline is being shaped by a registered foreign agent of a foreign government. Again, I can bring up this image and I can show you the exact line that says it, okay? Right here, it says, this is content production and distribution. Integration of narrative messaging into Salem Media Network properties and aligned distribution channels. Paid media campaigns delivering a minimum of 50 million impressions per month with a target average of CPM under $2 across the combined budget pool. All right. This is one page out of dozens. That's page 22. So again, it's not them buying ad space. This is, family ties of media infrastructure distributed by a company owned by the White House's family. Okay. Tell me the differences between, listen to that. Tell me where the Ottoman debt administration ends and this begins. Tell me where the differences between European creditors controlling Ottoman tax revenue and a foreign government's content pipeline running through media with presidential family equity. Tell me the difference. I'm asking sincerely in the chat. Let me know. Tell me the difference, because to me, it really looks the same. All right. It really looks the same. So we also have Show Faith by Works. It's a $3.2 million contract. And when I explain to you, you should probably listen carefully what this is actually describing. So I'll pull it up on my site and we can just kind of navigate from there, and then I'll explain it. So if we go to Show Faith by Works, this is their pipeline here. Investigations, Show Faith by Works. Where is it? Show Faith by Works is, I think, down here. Yeah, so church geofencing, mega churches, etc. And then again, we have the pipeline here, and then this is Show Faith by Works. So the filing describes they literally say it in the filing, the largest geofencing and Christian targeting campaign in United States history. That's what it says in their filing. Maybe I could find it real quick. Let me see if I can pull this up. This website kind of lags a little. Okay. What does it say here? Let me see if I can type this in. Largest, would it pull? Maybe it's not in this document. But yeah, again, this is, people were raising the flag on this. Christian outreach in the Western U.S., you can see right here. Israel's Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Let me see. Then they even have like the California Grand Ole Party, Melissa Lundy, Richard Twang Doe, whatever. Chad Schnitzker, you probably heard the name. Okay. Response to item: churches and Christian colleges and Christian organizations. That's just something special, isn't it? That's what your government, that's what Pam Bondi dismembered the oversight of. Just said, no, we don't need that anymore. Technology works like this. Communications devices belonging to congregation members are tracked when those members enter a proximity of a targeted church. I could probably show you how that works. Let me see here. I'll give you a quick breakdown in case you haven't seen it, or if you're new to my channel. I have a video on this here. I'll try to keep it brief because it's pretty in depth here. Let me see. Phones around it saying, "Hi, I'm device number 12345. Who else?" Not just this one church, but it's happening all over California and other states as well. So this diagram right here shows the way a geofence works, right? It'll sit around an entire parcel, a parking lot, for example, the lawn, everything, and another around just the buildings, sanctuaries, classrooms, the bathrooms, everything within this location. Every person who walks through that invisible wall has their phone literally tracked without their knowledge or their consent. Now, this has been happening for data and the ability to sell advertisers data, but now they're using this to manipulate the way you think about the world around you. The technology. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually send this to Harrison. I think he needs to see this. Let me send this to him real quick. Okay. So yeah, that's kind of how geofencing works, but that video is extremely detailed. It goes into a lot of the information. You should definitely check it out. This is the, I'll go back so you can see which one it is. So if you go into my videos here and you come down to, there's one with a AI like pastor looking thing. There's a couple. It's the first one, $150 million foreign, they're tracking you. This video right here explains a lot. So go check that out. So the stated goal of this operation is to foster positive associations with the nation of Israel and to portray the Palestinian population and those that identify with that and their right to exist as extremists. That language is in their filing, and a foreign government is using surveillance technology against American Christians in their own churches. A lot of Palestinians are Christian. They're targeting American Christian churches to shape what those Americans believe about foreign conflict. And then they shape belief becomes a political constituency that applies pressure to American politicians who were funded by AIPAC. As you can see, this becomes a significant problem when we start looking at the way this architecture actually works. It's quite bothersome, if you ask me, to be honest with you. But anyways, they also have Bridges Partners. I know that you know a lot about this. I'm going to have to continue talking about it because this is mega important. And I know new people come in all the time and you might not know what I'm talking about. And just remember, I'm going to get to the super chats afterwards. So don't feel like I'm leaving you hanging, okay? We'll be done here shortly. So we've got Bridges Partners. Their money is flowing through anonymous content creators that are American. And they have a 6-month window explained in the documentation for $7,000 a month in post, and then they'll expand it. You can see this post right here, this page right here from Responsible Statecraft. They explain this here as well. Israel is paying influencers $7,000 per post. Basically, Netanyahu referred this week to a community pushing out preferred using messaging in U.S. media, and boy, are they making a princely sum. Yeah, so this is, this is reality. This is the reality. Azealia Banks actually posted an image, or at Adame Media posted an image of Azealia. She, I have the post right here. She actually even said it. I got paid. It's not $7K a post, but I definitely get paid for every Israel mention. Even the troll posts are paid. How odd is that, huh? Azealia Banks. So shout out to Adame Media for that. So yeah, this is real. It's not fake. This is the real deal. And I want to be precise here. Pro-Israel fact checkers dispute the exact dollar amount post, but what is not disputed is that this federal funding exists. Your right as an American to know that it exists and know when your content feed was funded by a foreign government is being violated actively. That is basically what these receipts are saying. Now, let's talk about Pam Bondi, because this is where you should probably get upset, because it's been bothering me ever since. And I feel like, and I said it on the War Room with Harrison yesterday, Bondi was a registered foreign agent for Qatar. Okay. She was receiving $115,000 a month through Ballard Partners before she was ever nominated as Attorney General of the United States. And Qatar's influence operations in America, there are a separate stream, which I've covered before, and you can go check it out. Her face is on it, and I made a video about it recently. But Qatar has funded American think tanks, American university departments, American media acquisition, and documented lobbying operations. And they make their money flows through Washington, one of the most significant of any foreign nation. The person nominated to be the American's top law enforcement officer in this country at the time, who has now been fired or replaced, was on Qatar's payroll, making six figures a month. Her Senate questionnaire listed zero conflicts of interest, zero. And then on day one, Attorney General Pam Bondi issued a memo that downgraded FARA enforcement from a criminal matter to a civil matter. She also disbanded the Department of Justice Foreign Influence Task Force, the task force that was specifically responsible for tracking and prosecuting exactly the kind of undisclosed foreign operations influenced by a foreign government that I just showed you in these FARA filings. And it was dissolved on day one. The Ottoman Public Debt Administration that we have been talking about through this story was a foreign controlled body that collected Ottoman tax revenue. Pam Bondi's day one memo is the functional equivalence of turning off the alarm system and dismissing the security guards. The pipeline can operate with criminal exposure fully without any repercussions federally or criminally. These are influencers in the Esther Project that are violating federal law, facing no criminal prosecution because the person responsible for criminal prosecution was on a foreign nation's payroll before she even took the job and removed criminal enforcement on the first thing she did when she was in power. Why? But I'm saying I can read between the lines, and the sequence between these lines is pretty damning. Okay. I'm going to put another poll up. Make sure you're popping off in the chat. It signals to the algorithm. Just have a conversation, whatever. It signals to the algorithm that this stream is important and I need your help. Let's do this. I'll do this poll correctly. It was a policy decision, consistent, in line. All right, we got one. There was a conflict of interest. Let's see what you guys think about this. I got two more to add. It was stage 3 becoming stage 4. It was stage 3 becoming stage 4. And then we have one more. We have, I need to see more receipts. Okay, cool. All right. It won't let me or what? Oh, it's, here we go. All right, polls up. So the Bondi Day 1 memo, this is the poll in the chat. Please vote on the poll. I'm going to tell you what it says. The Bondi Day 1 memo, removing criminal FARA enforcement. What does this documented sequence tell you? A, it was a policy decision consistent with her legal philosophy. B, it was a conflict of interest that she failed to disclose. C, it's stage 3 becoming stage 4 in real time. Or D, I need to see more receipts before I conclude anything. Now, the FARA pipeline is the ground game here. The money flows to influencers, the churches, to AI models, to media networks. That ground game alone does not rewrite American federal policy. For that, you need an institutional layer. You need an organizational layer that takes donor pressure and converts it into legislation and government appointments. You need the Heritage Foundation, TPUSA, $133 million in annual revenue. That's the Heritage Foundation. 500 employees, 500,000 plus donor members. Heritage helped vet 4,500 government appointees, the State Department, administration for the Trump administration, and members thereof across conservative organizations, 110 to be precise. The DOJ, every federal agency, the people selected for those jobs ran through a filter shaped by the Heritage's institutional positions. And Heritage is not a think tank. It is a personal pipeline for the American federal government, and someone has captured it because now they are full-blown Zion aligned with Israeli, the same stuff we're talking about. I mean, I'm not trying to pin anything specific on anybody or talk badly about any entity, but all I got to say is that none of these companies or entities are America first. I don't see America first in any of these. All right. I'm going to play this clip here. Let me see if I can find this clip.
Heritage to have.
I want you
Heritage to have. The reason that
I want you to listen to this. I'm going to play this back at 24 minutes here. Is that where I'm at? 24. Let's start it right here. I'm going to play a few minutes of this. This is the CEO of the Heritage Foundation on PBD talking about, he describes what happened after Tucker Carlson had Nick Fuentes on his podcast. And Roberts publicly defended Tucker, and specific donors of the Jewish descent threatened to walk. Roberts called a staff meeting at the flagship American conservative institution, and he apologized. His words were that he apologized for mixing personal friendship with institutional friendship. And a couple of phrases I regretted. One phone call from a producer, from a donor, produced a public apology from the president of a $133 million American political institution. At a $133 million institution whose stated cornerstone is freedom of speech, he apologized for what he said because a donor called.
of what happened, right? Where Tucker had Nick on, right? Tucker had Nick on, and they did a podcast together, and he got a lot of heat for it. And right afterwards, I think you said, we will always stand with Tucker and so you said something very positive, complimentary towards Tucker. And I think even Tucker spoke at Heritage 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago at one of your events. So he's complimentary of you guys as well. But when that came out, and then some of the people walked, there was a article that came out, maybe even you spoke about it, about going to your staff and apologizing. What did you apologize for?
I apologized for two things, mixing up personal friendship with institutional friendship. And secondly, especially for Jewish friends, but for anyone, a couple of phrases in there that I regretted. And I can tell you, my closest Jewish friend called me the next morning and he said, Kevin, I know you're not an anti-Semite. You've expanded the work of anti-Semitism at Heritage. And he said, you're a Roman Catholic. I know your faith well enough to know you couldn't be. He said, but this is something that you need to address head on. And so it's sort of like the conversation with my retired OBGYN friend and donor, that this Jewish friend, up until this very moment, as we sit here, has been a great guide in setting up conversations for me and for us at Heritage to have. The reason those have gone well, in spite of not just the news cycle, but what seems to be an agenda that goes well beyond the video controversy, is because people know the record at Heritage. I think it's safe to say, if you think about my colleagues who work on the scourge of anti-Semitism, there's no organization, at least of our size and scope, that isn't a single issue organization that's done more to expand work against anti-Semitism. And so that's,
You see, like, how many? I actually ran the transcript and I said, how many times did they mention Israel, Judaism, Jewish, anti-Semitism versus America? And it was like 20-1, something crazy like that. For an American political organization that helps shape the administration for the White House, this is what we have. This is the largest political organization,
it's really carried
which they shouldn't even be. They're actually a nonprofit.
the day. And as we sit here with this, recent flap and news cycle having concluded, people realize, oh, I know Heritage. I'd say,
Oh, to answer this question, it's because they're a large donor, a Jewish donor. That's why.
people know me and the work I've done, especially as a Catholic leader against anti-Semitism. But the most important thing is I know their aspirational policy vision for the future, and we want to be part of that. Let's get to work, because remember, we might just have 6 or 8 or 9 more months to get good policy.
Mm-hmm. But what were the 2 things you apologized for? You said 2 things you said you apologized for.
I thought that the script of the video was in a couple of cases was ineloquent. And I talked about that then, so I don't have to repeat them. But the point is, I thought from my Jewish friend's point of view, that while he could excuse it, that maybe other people who didn't know me.
I get that, but I'm trying to, your Heritage Foundation, you guys, your main cornerstone is.
Your hair. Listen to what he says. PBD raises a good point here, but he lets him slide a little bit.
That maybe other people who didn't know me.
I get that, but I'm trying to, your Heritage Foundation, you guys, your main cornerstone is freedom of speech, right? So
Yeah.
for I watched the video multiple times, it sounded like a very reasonable video.
Mhm.
I'm a Syrian Armenian. I don't have any problems with them, with anyone in the who's Jewish whatsoever. We've had Bibi on, but we've had Nick Fuentes on. We're the only podcast in the world that within 30 days had Bibi and Nick Fuentes on. No one's ever done that before, not mainstream or podcasting. We'll talk to anybody and have a great conversation with them. But I want to go back to it. Is it when you said you can be someone who supports the Jewish, someone who can criticize the Jewish community without being an anti-Semite? I think you said something like that, right? Do you still stand by that position?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
that's not what I apologize for.
So wasn't that what you?
No, it was mixing personal friendship with institutional friendship, and it sort of goes back to one of your earlier
Right.
questions about being a nonprofit.
Are you sure? Are you sure it wasn't the money, Kevin? Because it seems like the money is what pressured you to do this.
Nonprofit leader.
Mhm.
Heritage is not my business. Heritage.
So, as I continue, I want to say this is institutional capture at its finest. This is a nonprofit. This is $133 million a year. But the problem is that $133 million comes from donors. And he's enacting on behalf of a donor who's irritated and bothered. And he needs to make a statement. I think it's bullshit.
is a nonprofit organization.
And it's disgusting. And it's freaking ridiculous.
Just
privileged
like
to lead.
Jim Collins.
Yeah.
Look at the guy, bro. He's a millionaire. He's running an American strong organization that's supposed to be. And he's simping out for money of a foreign interest. That's what this is.
right.
Said earlier, right?
And so that's the first thing. And then the second
I
thing,
look at him and I see a freaking simp. I see a simp, bro. That's all I can say. I look at him and I see a sad person who betrayed his country for money. That's what I see.
is some really genuinely close friends of mine who are Jewish said, Kevin, there are a couple phrases in there that we forgive you for, but while we support your stance on free speech and not canceling people, it's also a separate matter to make sure that one of the ways that we can sustain free speech and speaking freely is to make sure that our words are carefully chosen. That was a thing that I wanted to address.
So I live in Florida. We came here because of DeSantis. We like DeSantis. I think he's the #1 governor in America.
He's done a remarkable job.
I think he's done a phenomenal job, and I'm a big fan. And I recruit for him all day long to get people to come here. We moved a lot of people to Florida because I can easily promote him, unlike the previous governor when I lived in California, Newsom. I lived in Texas as well, and I could promote for him as well. He was an easy governor to promote for. Even Perry was an easy governor to promote for. But, sometimes when, in our company, okay, We have people here that,
TBD goes on, but he does. Well, here, let's see what he says. Maybe it's
to criticize AIPAC or to criticize this. Why can't you do that? And I'm right here, is where I'm at, right? And I watch both. That's what I like. I like to see both sides. Where do you stand with it? What's your position with it?
It's really important, this is Heritage's position, that there is a difference between political Zionism, which is the right of the Israeli state to exist, which we support 100%, probably rather famously.
I mean, does anything else need to be said?
Israeli state to exist, which we support 100%, probably rather famously. The right of the Israeli state to exist, which we support 100%, probably.
Nobody care. Like, yeah, you can exist. I don't care. Like, but what is the purpose of an American political nonprofit rather famously being known for that for? Why? Why? What about Americans' right to exist? What about Americans' right to be able to have whatever we need? What about the Americans' right to have something free for once? Why? Why and why not us?
Rather famously. The second, and divorce that from theological Zionism. And those of us who are Christians.
There's no such thing. That doesn't exist. That's all made up. That's dispensationalism. There's no such thing as theological Zionism. It's only political. That's all that it is. Zionism is only political. Let's take a look. Zionism is the nationalist movement that emerged in the 19th century, supporting their right, their people to self-determination and the creation of a national homeland in their ancestral land. It led to the establishment of the state of Israel. Where is this theological debate? This is not theology. This is not biblical text. This is purely a movement that's political. That's it. An ethno-cultural nationalist movement. Let's ask a question. Is primarily and most importantly political? Let's see what it says. Whether it is political depends on who you ask. Why? Why? The case for more than political. For many, the political aspect is just the modern shell. Yeah. Okay. Whatever.
Depending upon what our particular Christian faith is, have differences of opinion on that. Because they're theological and because Heritage is a non-sectarian organization, we honor all of those. And we have some people who work on very pro-Israel policy.
I'm not against anybody existing. I'm not. I just think that they are shaping the narrative to make us think a certain thing. And it's gotten all the way to the heads of these people because they teach it in churches and they make American Christians believe that it is actually biblical first when it actually doesn't say it anywhere in the Bible. They're not owed that land forever. They're not. They were gifted it and they fucked it up. That's the truth. Nobody says that they were supposed to own it forever, that land. That's a whole nother thing. Anyways, Israel doesn't have anything to do with the location anyways. It actually has to do with the people, Israelites.
Who are Christian Zionists.
Within the organization.
Within Heritage, we have others who are not Christian Zionists. They agree 100%. We at Heritage agree 100% on political Zionism, but we have to, as a non-sectarian organization, allow this theological disagreement, which really inside the workings of Heritage don't have a place because we're not a religious organization. And I think one of the fruits that's come out of the last few months is Heritage playing a role in reminding people of that delineation. And it's helped some of the fracturing of the conservative movement because people, whether through ignorance, just, not having
So right here, he's going to describe what happened next inside Heritage. In his own words, exact words, he says, Heritage, if we speak on something, it is an institution, a single voice, one voice, Behind closed doors, we can debate. But at the end of the day, once we get out of that door in front of everybody, we're on the same page. All right. And then the donor calls and Robert apologized. I mean, this whole segment is about this situation. And he apologizes by what he does is he apologizes. And then by Heritage's own one voice policy, that donor driven position becomes the locked institutional position of a $133 million organization that then walks that position across the street to Congress through Heritage Action, and which is their lobbying arm of 501c4. It gets embedded into legislation and it becomes part of the political filter for 4,500 government appointments. One donor call becomes a federal policy. That is Kevin Roberts, the CEO of the Heritage Foundation, describing it himself on camera to at least 139,000 views after being clipped, who knows how many million.
Have conversation where the donors can see it?
Yes, we do. In fact, we pride ourselves.
Can you give me an example of that?
Sure. Let me take back up one step real briefly,
Please.
if I may, because this is really important context, although it's going to sound like nerdy think tank talk. Heritage is famous for something called its one voice policy. Unlike other policy organizations in DC, where different scholars at the same organization can have different voices, different positions on issues, Heritage, if we speak on something, it's as an institution, a single voice.
If you haven't, please like this. Please share this content. It would mean a lot to me. YouTube does not like me right now.
Voice. Why? Because we're advocating for policy change. You can't write a white paper.
Meaning you guys at the top have to be aligned 100%.
We have to have one position, the same position on a policy issue. So
in front of the donors, you guys have to be aligned. Behind closed doors, we can debate and discourse, but
total sausage making, there has to be, right?
I agree fully. Okay, I got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So then he goes on. I think it's right here. Does he say it right here? Okay, and they're talking about family policy here. Here, I think it's this section right here.
Can, in fact, help culture and those trends reverse.
Have you seen any incentive that's been done for folks to want to stay married and have kids? Are there any countries that you look at and say, those guys did it right, they dropped at one point? We know China.
Pay attention to this. This is classic.
Right now opened it up. Their birth rate is horrible. When they say they got 1.4 billion people, I don't even know if that number's accurate, because when you do the math, it doesn't make sense when they went to the one-child policy. You just do the math on ChatGPT, the numbers don't go to 1.4 billion. So I don't know where they're at. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. What have you seen that's worked in a different country that the government incentive to cause people to have more kids and get married?
So PBD, Patrick Bet-David, asks Kevin Roberts, which country has the best family policy out of 193 countries? Roberts says 2 countries. Listen to what he says.
Two countries. The gold standard is what Israel has done. Now they've got
the gold standard.
And get married.
Two countries. The gold standard is what Israel has done. Now they've got some intrinsic advantages, largely religious, largely homogenous, but
out of 193 countries, the president of the institution that just capitulated to Jewish donor pressure on a speech issue, or just talking about his friend Tucker Carlson interviewing Nick Fuentes, whose Project Esther creates federal enforcement mechanisms against pro-Palestinian speech on American campuses, whose institution collaborates with TPUSA, whose financial architecture I've documented with IRS Form 990 forensics, looked at 193 countries and said, the gold standard for American domestic policy is the foreign government whose FARA registered agents are paying undisclosed American creators thousands of dollars for a post. I want you to feel the weight of that. Heritage does not just influence policy. Heritage staffed the federal government, the people running the State Department, the people running the DOJ, and every federal agency that were vetted through a heritage filter. Okay. Then at this section here, right here, Roberts confirms something in particular, what I just said. Okay. The heritage filter, shaped by donor pressure, locked by the one voice policy, and we're going through this step by step. This all has an end game purpose at the end of this show before we get to all the chats and stuff that we get to have a conversation and talk about all of this. Because I want to have some public discourse with you. I might even open up and bring someone on if you want. But so stick around for the end of this. We're going to be there shortly. So again, he says on camera that the one voice policy and donor pressure, Israel aligned by the president's own on-camera admission and statement, the president of this organization, is the filter through which the people now running the American federal government were selected. This is stage 4, you guys. This is stage 4. There's only 5 stages. 5 stages is the correction, is a violent correction. Policy alignment with the foreign powers' interest is not just happening at the congressional level through a couple $100 million in election spending. It's not just that. It is happening at the executive branch level through the personnel selection mechanism of the most powerful conservative institution in America.
To handle. And I don't know if, Bondi even expected it to be this difficult, because she made some promises, then she didn't, then it made it bigger, then it was an issue. So what do you do now? Because if it keeps going, it's not going to get any better. Every day something new pops up, and it's just distracting to the current administration with all the victories they're having.
I'll leave personnel decisions to the president. He's gotten them right. For us, if transparency was right on day one, it's right on this day. And I think that's the way out of this.
Got it. I saw a video that said, you guys, like, I would assume, if I've never been a president before, I would need to, especially Trump, who's never been in politics before, he would need to rely on somebody to put draft picks together, right? Because you come in, how many jobs is it? 4,000? I don't know the exact number.
4,500.
4,500 jobs that I have to place. Okay. No one can hire 4,500 jobs on their own and interview everybody, right? And sometimes they rely on heritage to say, here's some names to look at. This is the research. Is that a role that heritage has historically played to help give options to the president on who to consider for positions?
We've done that since 1980 when President-elect Reagan asked Ed Fulner at Heritage to help him with that. And it's grown from putting together, in that case, about 300 names for a somewhat lower number of open positions to what we did in 2024 with 110 other conservative organizations, which is a massive database that the administration.
So it's not only it's within different organizations together.
And that's why I think this time around it's been so successful, because it was conservative movement wide. A lot of organizations, not just Heritage, deserve credit for that. And because of your
How does that help me understand? I don't even know how you guys do that. How do you do that?
Through our networks, people who are adjacent to us in the work we do daily in Washington, but also for Heritage, because we're out in the country more than we are in Washington. People have served in state governments, or they have.
I'm going to keep it moving, but I think you get the point. Okay. The pipelines are documented. TPUSA's financial architecture through IRS Form 990s include this Clock Tower LLC payment, just shy of $1 million at a Las Vegas shell company address for a research project with 0 documented deliverables. The Clock Tower name appears on TPUSA's 990s, America's Turning Point's 990s, and the FARA filing for Brad Parscale's Israeli government contract. All right, these are almost one and the same. I can't connect the two because they're 2 different companies. They don't show the principle. But if I were to bet my bottom dollar on it, I would say that something America's Turning Point was funding was aligned with Clock Tower LLC, the same one that Brad Parscale operates, which is the donor ecosystem funding through Turning Point's donors, an Israel-aligned institutional position. The same personnel pipeline, this is just me guessing, but I'm just saying the same personnel pipeline into the federal government, the ground game, the institutional layer, and the personnel selection mechanism are all documented, and they all seem to be aligned in the very same direction. Okay. I want to be direct with you. This is not now no more historical metaphors, not just we're just talking about documented current state. All right. The United States in 2026 exhibits the following conditions, and this is all simultaneous. A foreign government has approved $729 million in an annual budget explicitly allocating to influence American public opinion through social media, through church targeting, through AI manipulation, and payment of influencers, and many other different ways of arms of this apparatus. That foreign government's FARA registered agent has documented operational integrations with a media network carrying financial interest of the sitting president's family members, an organization that was ordered to register as a foreign agent by the DOJ in the United States in 1962 and refused, has spent hundreds of millions of dollars on American congressional elections in the single cycle of 2024 and has 300 plus backed candidates sitting in the current Congress administration or Congress. The Attorney General of the United States, who was on a foreign government's payroll before taking office and disclosed zero conflicts of interest on her confirmation questionnaire for the White House, removed criminal FARA enforcement and disbanded Foreign Malign Influence Task Force on her first day in office. The President of the United States that staffed 4,500, the president of an institution, rather, that staffed 4,500 federal government positions, admitted on camera that donor pressure produced a public apology on a speech issue at a freedom of speech institution, and that the resulting position became Heritage's locked institutional and legislative policy through their own one voice mandate. American Christians are being surveilled in their churches by a foreign FARA registered influence operation whose stated goal is to shape their beliefs, the viewer and consumer's beliefs about a foreign government. Between however many anonymous American content creators, they have received foreign government money to post pro-Israel content to American audiences with zero disclosure as required by federal law, and are facing or have faced no criminal enforcement. That is not stage 1. That is not stage 2. That is stage 4. And the reason this is more dangerous than the Ottoman case or the East India Company case is this. The Ottoman people did not have access to the terms of their government's debt agreements. The people of India could not read the East India Company's strategic planning documents, and we can go to americansfortransparency.org right now, which ends up pulling you to FARA's website on a government official website, and you can pull the filing numbers. You can go to any website that I've showed you, Open Secrets, FARA, Justice, DOJ, AFNPT, Americans for Transparency. You can watch Kevin Roberts describe Heritage's own one voice policy in his own words, publicly available on YouTube. The information is not hidden. I'm not making anything up. It is buried, though. It's buried. It's hidden means you cannot access it. Buried means they put it where they know you would not look. And now you know where to look. Okay? We're gonna run one last poll, and then we're gonna open up super chats. Sorry I made you wait so long. I think this is important, though. Let's run another poll. Where are we at with this one? So we have 101 votes. How many people are watching right now? 260. Thank you for viewing. I hope that you liked and shared. I'm going to go ahead and drop this poll. Stage 3 becoming stage 4. I think you're right. Let me go ahead and run this here. So I'll just put this in the chat so everyone can see it. Bondi, one memo removing criminal FARA enforcement. What does this documented sequence say? It was stage 3 becoming stage 4. 41%, 103 votes. Thank you for voting. Let's go ahead and place this final poll while we go through everything else. Based on everything that you've seen today, excuse me. Let's just do this. We're going to skip stage 2 because I know we've already done stage 1, stage 3, stage 4. We are in stage 5. And I'll put a little explanation. What is this, stage 2? Okay, so okay, and then stage. All right, I'm gonna find out where you think we're at. Okay, I'm almost done. Okay, and then I wish they gave me more room to type. There we go. I'm making it short enough. Okay, this should work. So check out the poll on YouTube, and I'll put the poll in a scrolling ticker so you know what the questions are, and we can go ahead and kick this off before we end out to have a brief conversation together. All right, let's do this. There we go. Okay, here we go. So I'll put it up here, and then I'll let it run slow enough that we can see it. Position. Okay, slow. All right. Show. Okay, based on what you have seen tonight, where is America in the 5-stage pattern? Stage 2. Financial leverage is real, but institutions where are we at tonight? Okay, stage 2. Financial leverage is real, but institutions are still intact. Stage 3. Institutional capture is advanced but not complete. Stage 4. Policy is already aligned with foreign interests in documented ways. Stage part D. Stage 5. You'll see. D is we are in stage 5. Critical correction. Maybe I can make it go faster. Hold on, let me see. It's a little slow. There we go. Stage 5 is critical correction, which is violence. Okay? Violence. So let's get your votes in and let's open up super chats. Welcome to Angela Rena Wadsworth, becoming a YouTube member every Friday. We do have live streams for the members. Let me sit up a little better so my face isn't hidden. We have live streams for the members every Friday. Sometimes I have to change them, but we do have live streams every Friday or every week at least for memberships. It's only 99 cents. If you're doing this on your phone, App Store of Apple, the Apple App Store charges 30% more. So make sure you're doing it on a browser or in the Safari app on your phone, and then check off desktop website, and then it shouldn't charge you. All right. Welcome to Mrs. Big Country and Shadazy, 1979. Death Queef, one of my favorite new audience members here. Amazing show on InfoWars yesterday. Thank you very much. It was a privilege to be a part of the show. And I got to say, it felt good. It felt great, to be honest. I feel like I was able to convey the messaging that I needed to convey. And I think that Harrison, we talked actually during and stuff. So the breaks were productive, and he was learning as much as I was trying to educate. So thank you. I appreciate the super chat. Miss Lacey, $20. I appreciate you. Thank you for that. You always bring receipts, and we know it. Yeah. I think that I've driven this channel into a receipts focused. That's why I do this. I am not here to give my opinion. I am an American. I am borderline American only / America first. I'd probably say America first is 30% where I'm leaning towards, and America only. And I'll explain why. Purposefully, it's intentional because I think America first gives too much leeway to people who are soft, I guess you could say, to politicians who are too soft, who are too prone to outsiders influencing the operation, influencing the America First operation or agenda. I think that politicians in general are soft. And I think that when you make it America First, it's too easy for them to say, well, in order to have America First, we have to do this. And because of this, we have to do with that other country or that other location that's not America. That has nothing to do with America. We've got to give them money to do this in order for us to, we've got to do this so that like it gives too much space for error, room for error. I'm a data guy. I'm a patterns guy. And every president has been America first, they said. But what happens? The scope gets worse, broadened out into a America second, third, fourth, fifth. And it's because America first leaves too much room for other conversations that do not revolve around America. And I strongly believe in that. And unfortunately, and I hate to say it because I do care about other people and countries and places, but what I would say is if we are not careful, America first will become the word racist. It will become the word anti-Semitic. It will become the word whatever, place it in for a word that doesn't mean anything anymore. America first almost has no, like when they tied it to MAGA and MAGA got destroyed, America first is starting to lose its intrinsic value as a phrase. And that's how I feel. Thank you for the super chat. Christy, what's up? Hey, family. Hey, Danks. Good to see you. Thanks for the super chat. Thanks for the super chat, Miss Lacey and Christy, for the beautiful mods. Thank you. Mods don't get paid on this show. This is a community effort, but I appreciate it. Just so you know, I don't want you wasting money on that. If you enjoy giving me the money and that's something that you want to have your voice spoken, I don't pay mods, but they surely appreciate you taking care of me, I'm sure. But thank you for that. Christy, Critter KC super sticker, $1.99. Thank you for that. 10 Danks memberships. Dale Stark 6903 gifted 10 Dank memberships. Say thank you, Dale. Good to see you. I love seeing your picture. You look great. Thank you for that. Say thank you to Dale if you have received them. I appreciate that. Thank you for becoming a member, Kimberly and JT Vegia, 5845, $10 super. Thank you. I do have some things I would like to show you. If you want me to keep going, I've got some content queued up for the after debrief. And if anything else comes through, I'm happy to share. I'm happy to discuss anything that comes up in the chat if I see anything in particular. But I do have a couple of things here. Dale just had to leave. Okay, well, let Dale know, or I'll say hi to Dale if I see her again. I'm sure I will. I do have a couple of things here. This one is from Al Jazeera, and I'll keep an eye on any super chats or memberships that come in. So if you do join, please join the membership and become a part of the Dankster crew. It is only 99 cents. And or you can support the show by becoming a Patreon member for $5 and join the Discord through that access. You've been waiting on a check. You're going to be waiting for a while, unfortunately, until I start making any type of significant amount. I mean, we're looking at me not getting anything from YouTube potentially because they keep Well, they've messed with me a couple times. I got a couple of strikes that I haven't really told anybody about, but because it didn't go anywhere, I didn't feel the need to talk about it. But yeah, so this right here is from 2 years ago, and this is Israel's lobby influence on U.S. policy as powerful as ever. This is called Upfront. Let's take a look at this and just kind of go through this.
As the United States is under fire for its continued
Oh, he already talks fast.
support of Israel's brutal war on Gaza, and while it becomes further enmeshed in a costly war in Ukraine, many are asking, how is this affecting Washington's global standing? Is the U.S. overstretched? And could this signal the end of U.S. unipolarity? We'll ask renowned political scientist John Mearsheimer in an Upfront special.
My pleasure to be here.
It's been nearly 20 years since you co-authored your seminal piece titled The Israel Lobby, dealing with the lobby's undue influence on United States foreign policy. Have there been any major policy shifts or any other changes or developments since you wrote the piece?
Well, I think two things have changed. One is I think that we helped to open up the discourse about the lobby. Before we wrote the
Whoa, Mark, you can't be serious. You know, I do have a Cash App for that, but please don't do that. That would be very irresponsible. So what's up, Crystal? $10 super chat. Damn, Dankster, you have taught me more in the past couple months than anybody else that I follow. Appreciate you more than you'll ever know. Thank you, Crystal. That means a lot. Look, I'm here to educate everybody on, I'm also learning, right? It's not like I knew all of this stuff before I started the research, but what drove me into this is the realistic ideology in my head that TPUSA is captured. And that's kind of what drove me through going deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper until where I am today. So I appreciate that. And you're going to keep learning more because every episode, everything that I put out is truth. It's not me and my opinion. I might put up some opinion pieces here and there, which I think everyone should do if you're in my position. But thank you. There aren't many people that actually put out this kind of content. And I realize that there's a gap in the market, and that's what I'm here to fill. I appreciate you, Crystal.
and then the book. Not many people talked about the lobby explicitly and the lobby's influence on U.S. foreign policy. And I think in terms of the discourse, we had a significant influence. In terms of actual policy, I think we've had little influence at all. I think that the lobby remains as powerful as ever, and American foreign policy towards Israel and towards the greater Middle East remains greatly influenced by the lobby.
I mean, one could argue you're being too hard on yourself, that you're selling yourself a little bit short, to the extent that there is at least resistance now, and that resistance does matter. I mean, there's a campaign against the lobby group AIPAC, the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, and how they influence U.S. politics, specifically the targeting of progressive Democrats. According to one poll, 62% of respondents who voted for President Biden in 2020 agree that, quote, the U.S. should stop weapons shipments to Israel until Israel discontinues its attacks on the people of Gaza. Now, President Biden certainly continues to provide military aid and financial support to Israel. There's no doubt about that. But there's at least the perception of a risk that Biden is taking now that wouldn't have been there 20 years ago. Is that safe to say?
Well, I think there's no question that attitudes towards Israel and towards Israel's policies regarding the Palestinians has shifted in the body politic.
I just wanted to show that because they themselves understand what's going on, right? And I want to, I laid all of this out because I want to show a video that I watched yesterday, the intro. I'm going to pull it up. I think it's important because this is where it's led to. And you're going to see, it's going to be a dramatic shift in the actual, it's a dramatic shift, right? But you're going to see, this is where it takes us. And it's important that you know where all of this takes us, because now this is where we are, okay?
Millions of American Christians voted for Donald Trump when he ran for president in the last election, and millions more Christians around the world rooted for him to win. Many still do root for Donald Trump. Now, why is that? Because of his personal piety? Well, of course not. Trump, to his credit, has never claimed to be personally pious, especially religious in any sense. They voted for.
Oh, we got a question here. 1202. Sent letter to Erica Kirk legal. I remember you looking. I haven't looked into the legalities of it, but they can do whatever they want. Like, it doesn't matter what we say on that. Like, they did it, obviously. You know what I mean? Doesn't matter what I say. And yeah, and I think it is legal. They can just ask for a request. Are they being investigated? If they say no or yes, yeah, I'm sure that. But the thing is, and Baron Coleman mentioned this before, the chance that you'll ever get a letter from the head of Secretary of Treasury is pretty much 1 in a trillion, right? So that's some political power. They've got it.
For him, and they still support him because he seemed like a protector. He seemed like someone who.
All of the things that we talked about today lead to this. They lead right to this. Okay. This is what happened. All of these decades, all of this show today led directly to this, what he's going to say.
Might save them from the growing and highly aggressive agnosticism, if not atheism, of, say, the technology class or the bureaucratic class, godless nations of other religions that oppose us. Donald Trump seemed like someone who would protect Christians from that, who was committed to the free exercise of religion in this country, and who was also committed to ending abortion. Whether or not he himself opposed abortion, whether he was pro-life in any meaningful sense, didn't seem to matter. He would appoint justices that opposed abortion, that thought Roe v. Wade was unconstitutional. He did that. And that he would basically carry the flag for their issues, and that he was sympathetic to them. And they support him on that basis. Can they still support him? That's the question. And that's the question Christians should have begun to ask themselves on January 4th of this year. And that was the day that the president announced the arrest of the president of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, who was, no question, an anti-American leader and a socialist, not someone most Americans liked or really had cause to like. So the problem is not necessarily that Trump was against an anti-American leader. In fact, that was a benefit in the eyes of most of his voters. The problem was why we did it and why the president told us he did it. And that was for the oil. So in the days before that operation in early January, the president tweeted out, sent out on his Truth Social account, and also said in public, we're doing this because we want the oil, because that oil belongs to the United States. He never explained how exactly the United States would own the natural resources of a foreign country. Apparently, American oil companies helped develop the oil fields in Venezuela. Therefore, we own the oil. That was the idea, and they stole it from us. But there was no real effort to explain how that works, how that makes any sense at all. Instead, you had the president of the United States say, we need the oil. Oil's really important. True and true. Therefore, we're going to take it. And therefore, apparently, we did. In the days after that operation, the successful removal of the president of the country and the installation of his vice president, Delcy Rodriguez, as president, our president, Donald Trump, held a widely publicized on-camera meeting with the heads of American oil companies and talked through how we're going to split up the national resources cherish and have earned and that we own will be taken from us by force.
Let me skip to the point where,
if you don't believe in the Bible, you think it's just a book, there's no cost to you to putting your hand on it, just kind of following the protocol, going along with the tradition. All presidents do it. Why aren't you doing it? And you're not doing it intentionally. You're choosing not to put your hand on the Bible when you take that oath. That suggests
this is where he gets into it. Thank you, Zero. $20 super chat from the mods. Keep up the good fight. We are all just getting started. Let's go, chat. The fact you're all here with the Dankster Intel team means a lot. Proof not all Americans are scared of uncomfortable truth. Respect. God bless, bro. Thank you. Yeah, I think I was talking to Baze yesterday, real Baze, if you don't know. And I was saying that we are actually, I'm finding myself leading the charge as the America needs to be reevaluated by the Americans. And I'm finding myself very close to leading this charge, it seems. I want to pull up. I don't want to waste too much time on this intro stuff. I want to find the exact part of this transcript. But yeah, we are, the transcript is not here. Where is it? That's strange. Huh. Okay. Well, I'll find it. It's okay. But yeah, we're leading the charge on America first, America only, or at very least getting out of institutional capture. And the only way to do that is by raising awareness. That's the only way I think I can find a way to explain it.
Not that you don't believe it's real, because if you didn't believe it was real, why would you care? You'd put on the costume and take it off. Doesn't matter. That suggests you know it is real and you're rejecting it intentionally. You know what you're doing and you're doing it anyway. But nobody asked questions about that either. It seemed kind of inappropriate, given the celebration then in progress, to ask, why wouldn't you put your hand on the Bible when you take the oath of office to lead our nation? But pretty
Is
much
that true? Did he do that? Did he not put his hand on the Bible? I didn't know that. Did Donald Trump not put his hand on the Bible when taking the oath of office? I didn't know that. He did not place his hand on a Bible during his second inauguration. While 2 Bibles were present, a family Bible and the historic Lincoln Bible, he kept his left hand at his side while raising his right hand to take the oath of the office. What? Yeah, I know. I've heard that he's converted. And then I saw Mark Levin or whatever say, you're the first Jewish president. There is no law or constitutional requirement that president is mandated to use a Bible or place their hand on one during the oath. It's a long-standing tradition initiated by George Washington, but it is not a legal mandate. Wow. Is he the first president to do this? No, he's not. John Quincy Adams, Theodore Roosevelt, Lyndon B. Johnson, Franklin Pierce, Calvin Coolidge. What, if any, do all of these presidents, besides Trump, have in common that are negative for the American people? Critics have identified specific negative impacts or failures associated with each. Several of these presidents presided over periods of extreme social or sectional polarization. Pierce ranked among the worst presidents because of support for the Kansas-Nebraska Act. Lyndon B. Johnson oversaw a period of intense domestic turmoil. Executive overreach. Roosevelt is criticized by some of the stewardship theory, believing a president could do anything not explicitly forbidden by the Constitution. Johnson used the ambiguous resolution to massively escalate the Vietnam War. Calvin Coolidge blamed historians for his hands-off economic approach. Wow. Aggressive foreign policy. Big stick diplomacy. Not looking great. I want to get to this part where he's talking about
what he did. I didn't. I'll admit that. I saw it and didn't say one word. Bothered me ever since. But right around January 4th, it became clear that maybe he didn't put his hand on the Bible because he affirmatively rejects what's inside that book. And what's inside that book are limits on human behavior. Because if there's one theme that spans all 66 books in the Christian Bible, it's that you are not God. And you cannot assume his powers. Because you don't have them. You may convince yourself you have them. You may want them. You may have been promised them. But in the end, they're not yours. And you'll never have them. And you can only destroy yourself and the people around you by pretending that you do. That is the consistent message that spans from Genesis to Revelation. And people who ignore that law are punished. Just like people who ignore gravity or freezing temperatures are punished. because these are laws that were not created by people. They supersede people. But on January 4th, when the President of the United States told us he was stealing the
100%. Did you hear? Okay. I'm glad you mentioned that. Let's bring this up from yesterday. Let's skip to this. This is what I said. Let me find the, it's right here.
And they were, before I dropped this story,
Start investing.
It was
not, Trump's a moneymaker. He's making deals and whatever. And it was always like, yeah, it's our fine. All politicians do this, whatever. But this is really something different. And the way that you're laying it out and the way, it's tied in together, again, just taking yourself out of the bias of, hey, I'm a Trump supporter and I got to support Trump, and just looking at this like any other politician, it is extremely bad what's happening here. And even if I'm just taking it from the perspective of Republicans, you don't think the Democrats are going to start investigating this at some point and looking into this and maybe charging? I mean, this could be a setup for the Trump administration or the Trump family to be thrown in jail once he's out of office because of what they're doing here. It's a complete setup. You've done just incredible work. Again, my guest is Danks. Follow him on X at Dankster Intel. Americans
millions of dollars from other countries, and basically it looks like a full-blown operation
Right here.
And president that I've realized, like I have, that just to get started.
Right here. So I explain exactly what you're saying here, Jeannie. Check this out.
But
oh shit, what did I do?
a long actual article says.
Yeah, I mean, multiple different ways. Now, we don't know exactly how the money pipeline besides Salem, because when I look at their market cap, it's like only 13 constantly on this network. Laura has her own segment, and she's publicly stated that she's happy to be speaking the truth about whatever the line was, speaking the truth on this network and whatnot. Imagine if Hunter Biden down our throats and that the president, but even just to the little things of the painting, but the anger and frustration, I think, hasn't really sunk in yet.
It's like right here.
Then they spend all of our and then not put money.
Here we go.
Got into office, but from everything to see him take money, to see him get completely just schmooze in a way I didn't know somebody could be schmooze before, to change his entire alignment, or it doesn't seem that happened. What seems to me is this was the plan all along. That's how I see it, because when you see when you trail back the money and the pipelines, it's all happening before he even got into office. Right when they get into office, what does Pam Bondi do? The first thing was get rid of the FARA oversight. That was the first thing. Why? If they were not planning this already, why tell everyone they're going to release the files of the Epstein files, and then they spend all of our money, all of this money, to redact those files and then hold back, not put it out, not give us all the information, not hold any accountability. Actually, Trump never really fully admitted to saying he was going to do it. Even before, he just ran on this idea of the Epstein files. So to me, it really looks like he was saying whatever he needed to say to win, because I believe when you look at the Board of Peace, and if you don't know what that is, I'd recommend the audience look at what Board of Peace is.
Yeah.
He is the chairman of a company or of an organization that is receiving money for what was supposed to be just pro-Gaza, for building out Gaza for 3 years. Now they've made it indefinite. Out of Trump's mouth, he said that they're going to be something like an oversight to the UN.
Yep.
They are receiving billions of dollars from other countries to build in Gaza. All right. This was the plan all along. We got duped. They lied to us. And I have no problem saying it, because when I look back at everything and I see what's happening now, there's no other answer for me. There's no other answer. You're not going to tell me that the family and Trump himself, like, think about Polymarket. Don Jr. ended up getting this investigation on Polymarket to stop the investigation. They get out of the limelight of legislation being litigated, and then they buy Polymarket, and now we see on the news headlines that they're making millions and billions of dollars from trading and from doing yes no bets on Polymarket in crypto. Why buy Polymarket 6 months into the presidency, probably working on it 6 months before that, which places you when? Before you're in office. Everything leans back to it was all a setup, it was all a lie, and it was all planned from the very beginning. And they just took us for a ride. And now they're taking us and the entire world for an even worse one because of it.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely brutal. I can't disagree with you. And again, I think, you know, we always knew that there was maybe.
So that's it, man. Yeah, that's what happened. They took us for a ride. Shout out to Harrison Smith, man. Thanks for letting me speak. So, look, I want to leave you with one thought. In 1615, the English diplomat Thomas Roe finalized a trade agreement with the Emperor of Zheng. Roe went home to London. The merchants came. The trading posts went up. The alliances got built. And almost 250 years later, the last Mughal empire was tried in his own capital by a military court of a company that arrived on his own predecessor's invitation to trade spices. He was exiled to Rangoon. He died in a British colonial jail in 1862, and he had governed 150 million people. That's half of our country's people. He spent his last years writing poetry in exile. He did not lose to an army. He lost to a charter, a piece of paper granting access. The United States was granted its sovereignty on paper as well. Documents, a constitution, laws. The Foreign Agents Registration Act, the law that states if you are working for a foreign government inside America, you have to register and you must disclose. Robert Kennedy tried to enforce government tried to enforce that law for the government of America in 1962. The enforcement effort died when his brother was killed in Dallas. 62 years later, the organization that he tried to register is spending hundreds of millions of dollars in American elections to influence foreign interest on behalf of our government, on behalf of Israel. The Attorney General, who was on a foreign government payroll, removed criminal enforcement of the same law on her first day in office. And between dozens of American or more influencers and voices are posting foreign interested and foreign government aligned and funded content in your feed without full disclosure. I'm not here to tell you what to think. I am here to put documented sequence in front of you and ask you to see yourself so you can to see all of it and shape it for yourself. This mechanism of what is happening to America is in public record. They're in federal government filings. That's what I pull from. Congressional hearings and testimonies and DOJ documentation, FEC data, on-camera admissions, as we've seen from largest political donor nonprofits. It's all there. It's what I do is I dig up the stuff that they try to bury or they don't talk about. This is your country. These are your institutions. This is my government, not the other way around. This is your public record. So use it. Use the freedom of speech. Use the Second Amendment. Use the Constitution. Because when you don't use it is when they use that data to pull our freedoms away. Oh, they're not buying guns. Let's try to slowly take this away from them. They're not pushing back against freedom of speech. You know how I got my YouTube live streams back, you guys? Let me tell you how I got my YouTube live streams back. This is how I got it back. Check this out. Where is that post? They didn't email me. They didn't do any of that. Where is the post? Let me show you how I got my live stream back. Where is it at? My goodness. Where is it at? YouTube, unless they deleted it. Maybe they deleted it. Let me see. Let me see if we can do search my channel from at Team YouTube. Right here. So this video, this post got we got like 100,000 views, and I tagged YouTube. This is how they gave me my content, my live stream back. Following a review of your content, we are happy to confirm that your video has been reinstated. We appreciate your patience through this process. I got no email. I got no explanation of why it was just ripped from the live stream. I have no idea what I did wrong, so I don't do it again. Okay. Nobody confirmed via email. I thought this was like a joke until I saw the gold badge and the 2 million followers. And also, they didn't give me my video back. They didn't give it back at all. It's not there. It's gone. It's ripped from the airwaves. It's completely gone. It was here after my last Friday members live stream. It was on Saturday, and there's nothing there. There's only this members live stream. It's not there. So they lied, and they didn't tell me why it's taken down. And they gave me this information on an X post. Like they're simping for views. So please, do me a favor. Let me see if this works like this. You got to go to this link right here. Go to this channel. I'm going to put it in the comments. And I'll pin it. And we'll close up here shortly. That's my Rumble account. It's very important to me that you go and follow that Rumble account. Please. I don't want to move over there solely, but I will if I'm forced to. I pinned it. My Rumble is pinned. Okay. And I'll put it down here on Rumble, Dankster Intel. Please go follow me on Rumble. I'll show you the page. Okay. Where are we at? Here it is. It's right here. All right. At Dankster Intel. We've got 20,000 people we got to move over to Rumble. So it's hard to even think about leaving something. There's only 6 people watching on Rumble. Look, I don't want to be late to the game and be like, oh man, they took away all my stuff and I can't. But we got to start moving that direction. At least having, this is live streamed right now. We're live streaming right now on Rumble. Okay. You can see we're live right now. So just do me a favor, do yourself a favor. If you like this information, you want to continue getting it, follow me on Rumble. And if you're not following me on X, you're missing out because there's a lot of shit going down on X. And I live stream there every time I live stream. All right. I appreciate the 300, 400 people there watching me right now. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for commenting. And look, this is your country, man. This is your country. Okay? Don't let them make you think otherwise. All right. I'll see you guys probably, tomorrow. I'll be back tomorrow. And I'll release a shorter version of this tonight, hopefully, if I have time. All right. So God bless. Thank you for being here. And stay sharp, stay kind, keep your head on a swivel. It's your boy Danks. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.